Right guys, I'm back to kickstart my London adventure.
Won't let anyone in with any travel checks at all.
Right now in the Shrek adventure, temperature checks and masks are required. Book time slots are required. Welcome to the Shrek first attraction.
You're here! I can't believe it! It's me, Gigi! You're gonna have a great time! Bye for now!
Alright.
First floor, departures.
You recorded it? Special edition for the possible
Please put your phone away, darling. I got you. You thought you were being sneaky, but I...
That's funny, I like that one. It's a bit toasty, isn't it?
You'll be in good hands with the Muffin Man.
The Muffin Man.
Donkey! Hello, suckers! Welcome to Rumpelstiltskin's dinner made of insanity. We're getting into this evening. We're finding our way out. It's gonna drive you crazy.
So unfortunately I couldn't record Shrek. Most of the attraction in Shrek Venture is actors and stuff filming. As you saw a bit earlier in the video, I got told off and was told to put my camera away. So unfortunately I couldn't film a Shrek for you guys, but when I'm done here I will be filming Sea Life fully for you guys. Really sorry that I wasn't able to capture much footage in Shrek, and the footage I did try and capture was more of sneak footage without the staff members knowing. But as you saw earlier in the video, I did get told off and I had to put my phone away, which is fair enough, you know. If they don't want me recording the attraction, and I understand, so. But there are little bits where I did record it. That is the end of Shrek. The merchandise t-shirts, loads of Shrek soft toys, Shrek gifts, and that wraps up Shrek for now. We are back at Sea Life.
That one there.
Welcome back. It's great to be back at this Sea Life. It's the best in the UK. It's better than Great Yarmouth. London Sea Life. Got a shark sleeping down there.
That's a big one. 4 trips of him.
As soon as you arrive at the Sea Life Centre, masks and temperature checks are required and book time is required. But we're back at the best sea life in the UK. Journey begins here. So great to be back at this sea life. It's definitely worth checking out. Some information if you want to pause the video. The red cardinal fish. Mediterranean aphis. If you want to pause the video and read the information. So as I say, you do need to book your time slot when you come to Sea Life. And unfortunately London is going to tier 2, which no mixing of indoor attractions, which is a shame. So if you want to come to Sea Life, you'll have to solo it, unfortunately, until London goes back to tier 1. This is an amazing place to come to as a solo traveller. Just every detail on the theming is incredible. Even on the walls, they've done an amazing job of it.
These are some big fishes.
They are. Tribe of fishes. Smile for the camera. You're on YouTube.
Plantains are very good.
I really am gonna miss this place. Sad. We'll be closing temporary. We'll miss sea life. Virtual reality there. Yeah, we have to play a bit more.
Thank you for keeping everyone safe. When you dive in, please be advised that face coverings are mandatory in our attraction, and as such, please make sure you're wearing a suitable face covering at all times.
Or the treasure chests.
Mummy's gonna hold you.
sé si están esperando.
Turns out it wasn't a great job here anyway.
Oye, pero tenemos que comer así algo rápido, ¿sabes por qué? Porque no sabemos a qué hora van a cerrar el otro de Mandela.
Looks really, doesn't it?
I do adore this new flush toilet.
on YouTube. This is the area the penguins get fed. Well, do you know your penguins? Touch a penguin's tummy and discover something amazing. Every detail in this sea life is incredible. It really is brilliant, and this is why it is the best sea life in the UK. Every detail is brilliant. Every theming in here is amazing. So much effort and detail's gone into this sea life. Brilliant.
Little Grey and Little White lived, we immediately began the search for a new home. They'd been in the aquarium too long to be released into the wild, but we were determined to find somewhere as close as possible to their natural environment. Thanks to a multi-million-pound contribution from Merlin Entertainments, the owner of Sea Life, we were able to give them just that. We built an incredible ocean sanctuary in open water off the coast of Iceland, the first of its kind. We're committed to caring for these amazing animals for the rest of their lives. A donation from you will help Little Grey.
During our attraction, and as such, please make sure you're wearing a suitable face covering at all times.
You'll see their polyps look like little flowers with heads surrounded by arms. Drugs and thinkers and bad.
This means that they never have to leave the water.
Our tanks are specially designed so that we've got really good access to the tops and to the sides, so we can easily move these creatures from one display to the other without causing any harm to the jellyfish.
We culture all types of jellyfish here at Sea Life London Aquarium. These are some of the species that we breed from polyp to medusa.
We have the moon jellyfish,
The Atlantic sea nettle,
the amacusa jellyfish,
and the white spotted jellyfish. We sometimes
Now we've come to the end of Sea Life, guys. It's been brilliant to come back here. Did it at the start of the year, and this is where I'll be wrapping up this second part of the vlog into one long video. So Sea Life is brilliant. I definitely recommend checking out Sea Life in London. I know there's tougher restrictions now, but Sea Life in London is still open. So now it's off to the bus tour, and there's the exit up the stairs. And now I've just kick-started the bus tour, so sit back and enjoy the tour.
If you lived in the suburbs, as they are now, you had to walk in as much as 8 miles in either direction, depending where you live, because no one really could afford a horse-drawn omnibuses. The trains reduced our need to walk in and back, and indeed, the population grew as a consequence. The population was around 1 or 2 million in the 1820s, became over 3 or 4 million by the 1850s, and continued, hasn't really slowed anytime since. So you get to appreciate the sheer gargantuan nature of Waterloo Station by the fact that ahead of us, the blue canopies at any rate, are the former Eurostar platforms, where you used to be able to get to France from. Now they're suburban, so you can get to places like Twickenham or Wimbledon, the home of rugby and tennis respectively. France is by train from King's Cross St Pancras International, which is also home to Harry Potter's platform 9 3/4. But if you ask somebody nicely, they'll hold onto your scarf and take a photo if you should take a photo if you put the wall if you want to take that. The last of building when he left this county, all of this magnificence, controlled London until the 1980s. The road ahead of us, well, very last night the Blitz, enemy action reduced it to a wall of fire, higher than this bus by far, and melting the platforms of Waterloo, reducing communications to a whisper. London was almost lost that night, at least what we know, and this is a consequence of it. But London changes every decade, and in the past 20 alone, once you clear County Hall on the left, you're going to get this nice sort of millennial boulevard up to the eye, and as it's getting darker, the eye should be in the process of turning its lights on. And this all came in the past 10 years ago, never mind 8. So there's the last of the eye on the left up, as close as we can get. And then we'll have a look at Waterloo before we get over the river. Waterloo's the busiest station in Britain, one of the busiest in Europe, 99 million visitors in the average, and it opened in the 1840s. That kind of footstool that made somebody's eyes water. But if you keep your eyes on to the right, when these buildings end, you'll see up to it, and its distinctive feature is what we call the main entrance. It was opened as the Fitzroy Arch in 1922. It bears all the names of the rail workers from Waterloo Station that was killed in the First War, and has a small plaque remembering those from Waterloo Station lost in the Second. It's a fair trickle going in, not as much as you works when it wants to, looks like it's working now. And there's one on the concourse that before the days of mobile phones and everything, we agreed to meet your other half under the screen in town, and in the country is a height of 4 double-deck buses. The entrances are beneath our feet in what we call subways or tunnels. So this is Waterloo Bridge, still known as the Ladies' Bridge, on account of the fact it was completed by female workers during the Second World War. As you see on either side now, the South Bank Centre, which goes all the way up to the Tate Modern Art Gallery. National Theatre on your right, cinemas and other theatres and concert halls down on your left. There's far too much to be getting on with nowadays in the South Bank Centre. You'll see as we get past the trees that there's little things you can eat in by the riverside. There might be something similar to dancing. There's usually during the day a book market under the southern approaches. There's more cafes and restaurants. It's all systems go. I say on a Friday, obviously being the weekend, that's when it gets a little bit busier, irrespective of what is going on in the world. Now the bridge is the longest bridge in central London because it spans the bend of the River Thames, or one of the bends at any rate. And as you clear the trees, one of the better things about this bridge, and there's many things here, you'll get some trees. Better than Tower Bridge, I dare say, because you're sort of in the middle. Even though Tower Bridge is in the middle. So when to your left, that's the road just came from. houses above and over and on the North Shore, the city of Westminster, over 1,000 years under those streets. Then away to right, up to the skyscrapers and centre. The city of London, 2,000 years under those streets. And that is where we are heading to. Roofing places. It looks like a palace, a mansion. It's merely office space for the 18th century. But Somerset House gets used as the beauty of London is that there's always something going on when you least expect it. Within it, apart from the courtyard, you have an arts gallery, a couple of cafes, and the Inland Revenue. The tax man. The Navy used to be here, and Samuel Pepys briefly worked in the building on this site. Restaurants there meet you your help. So you go up past the Lyceum Theatre, there's a Lion King 20 odd years now theatre, Waldorf Hotel, and on the Old Bridge, Anglo-Saxon, the old set. When the Anglo-Saxons based themselves in the Luton, there was no fellow theatre. That's been shown the Mamma Mia now for 20 years. Sitting on the banks of the old riverside, it's the Waldorf Hotel, also on the left. They're opened just before the first day of the war. At the end of this, you can see Tina at the old bench. The fact they haven't boarded up their entrance like they have done other theatres is optimistic. Hopefully they will go. Sunday is open all year round. London School of Economics, the second top university in the country, in the capital, one of the best ones in the country. The likes of Nick Dragon, Dave Backrock, John F. Kennedy, all these students. And you get Australia House of 21, with the flags here. This is where they filmed Harry Potter's Gringotts Bank back in the day. Now, usually it's open Monday to Friday, and if you want to see enough lights, see the chandeliers through that red velvet set of Australia House. I've got to have to ask nicely. Now this is the Royal Courts of Justice, away to my left. It's the second highest civil court in the land. All manner of cases are being heard here, some of them high profile. This entrance therefore on the left is probably one of the most photographed and filmed entrances anywhere in the country. For instance, Johnny Depp, and I heard this a couple of months ago. And the press weren't socially distanced, you can't win them all. Therefore, you're now in the middle, or you may refer to, I suppose, as the legal heartland of London and the country. Some of the law institutions here, and the streets are ready to be in London, and indeed, you're now in the city of London. Romans landed down the road, near what is now London Bridge, in 43 and London blossomed from it. All of what you know of Greater London effectively started down by the Thames. The thing is, where it all started is now being left behind. We call this bit the square mile. It still sort of vaguely follows the Roman line, or perimeter anyway. But the Romans had a nice wall to keep people out, basically, don't they? And it had 7 gates that you needed to ask nicely the country. And those names now mostly exist in tube stations, like Old Gate. The city, all the same, has its own police force, separate to the Metropolitan, a Lord Mayor, who we get every year, and laws that have been in existence virtually since the Romans. Something a little bit more modern is Fleet Street, where we are presently. This used to be where the newspapers were based, like the Daily Mail, Daily Express, and so on and so forth. Some of the smaller provincial newspapers, like the Duncan Material and the Manchester Guardian. Either way, they all disappeared in the 1980s to more modern, cheaper office spaces. So as you can see now, a little bit quieter you might say than those days. There's largely rented shops or city roads, the actual sort of epicentre, the other side of that main circuit. If you look up through this gap to the right, you see St. Bride's Church spire very shortly, and the spire influenced the first ever wedding cake back in the day. That is also the journalist church, even though they've all moved on. Now, any of the pubs you have seen on the way down here, and there's about half a dozen on and off the road, you can see the Old Bell shortly on the right hand side, and another one round the corner, were all built after the Great Fire of London. In the case of the Old Bell, which is now next to a kiosk, Christopher Wren is said to have built the bell for the workers of St. Paul's Cathedral. Londoners are partial to a drink after a hard day's graft, but in those days, pubs were where you got everything, it seemed. You didn't have all these shops to get food and drink from, you didn't have all these hotels and travel lodges, so you spent the night in taverns, you had something to eat, something to drink, socialised with your friends, and then you went off to St Paul's Cathedral, the whole building. So, hop over like this, and where these lights are, where the bus is roughly now, is where the Roman wall was being back in the day, and no day to fire, that's why it's called the London. Much of this on the left, for instance, only sprung up around 2008. That road never existed until 2008. They're first proof that how London regenerates, keeps itself current. The next stop will be just in front of St Paul's. Well, I say in front of it, just out front of it. So they extend the curve. We'll have a look at the grand old church in London. So, for those in it, this is St Paul's Cathedral, which you need a stop for. That is St Paul's Cathedral. All clear upstairs, great. This is the nave itself. 528 steps leading to the top of the dome, what's known as the Golden Gallery, which you can touch heaven on those stairs. And in the crypt, Christopher Wren lies with the lights of Nelson, Bells and the others. Wren's crypt says, if you seek his monument, look around you. They meant the church, but London as well in those days was largely designed by Christopher Wren. It was the tallest building in London for almost 200 odd years after its construction, and was replaced by the BT Tower of all things. You know, that's a pin drop compared to the shop. If you stop Christopher Wren up there now, you think, yeah, in those days, you couldn't get up there. You would not recognise the city that has blossomed away from it. You might see the odd church spire, but it's a metropolis now. On Wednesday, it ended almost a mile away as far as dense growth goes. So the gardens we left are reasonably new, no more than 10, 15 years now. The shopping centre, that brownish building upper 80 left new change, opened in 2016. There's a nice glass lift, and when you step into it, takes you up to the promenade level free of charge. That lets you look at St Paul's as if you could hold it in the palm of your hand. And that's what Christopher Wren had in mind, really. He even imagined himself as a bird looking down on there. So he wanted every angle, every inch. He might not like the look of new change, but it's a glass aircraft hanging on there. Right. Dancing across it like a ballet. Then at the weekend, most of these places you see on either side of us, very short clothes, only Shake Shack these days. And that's because the sea workers, as I say, they're not here. Sadly, they're not here now. Most of them, 40% of them, if not more now, are working from home. I bet they wish they had that during the Great Fire days, so they wouldn't have to worry and get away with it. Until round about the turn of the last century, there were still hundreds of thousands of people. Sports facilities. It's not efforts raised up with it. That's where they're most business. Now we get a new Lord Mayor around about the end of October, start of November. Every year, if you want the job again, you can't have a director, you only have to come back. You don't get paid a salary, and you come from a livery is now quite numerous, it's a couple hundred, and they each represent an industry or profession in the city. The older ones are the ones like the gun makers, cheesemongers, and all the rest of the show. Sun has been there a fraction of time. It's the Bank of England galaxy left here. It's been there since 1634, its original shape anyway. And now as you can see, it's first year city block. We've got ourselves a brand spanking new governor of the bank. He's not a chap I'd want to get at the moment, and what a chance of money. All this around you has changed. Where the columns are, it's now a fortnight made, that's ceasing to get money. Down the end of this road, where the Great Fire of London started, on the 2nd of September 1660, and spread for 4 days and 3 nights in all directions but south of the river. Indeed, it almost got over London Bridge, but a church managed to stop the river. Those living on London Bridge, and they were home to one of the right through to the 18th and early 19th century, saw it leap across the road in mere seconds. London is no stranger to fire. It's been a major one every century since Boudicca burned it down. But this fire, they were not doing too well in it. And just recovered from a plague. The London plague happened the year before. Something like 70,000 people died. And now all of a sudden, and that's now for London Bridge. There were people coming over it. It's not like the boys like in Russia. There's many more people. This London Bridge is from the 1960s. The first ever one turned up by the road around about 63 AD. It would have been a few metres away as well. Instead, many more metres away to the left of the Tower Bridge. It's situated between here and there, of course, HMS Belfast, the Second World War cruiser, and the Korean War, which has been a museum ship since 1971 around by the Imperial War Museum. And all of that water, just past Tower Bridge by a few metres, is known as the Pool of London. This is the extent where the ports ended by the 60s, and then from the 60s they all died. That's why you got Canary Wharf now, out to the east. He came down there as late as the early 60s, mid-50s, and he never saw the Pool of London for looking because all the ships on water. Sailors used to say it was easier walking over the decks of ships between the shores than walking out to London or Tower Bridges. You never got your feet there. So this is, again, London Bridges up and down. So where the warehouses and the lights used to be on the left are now a mixture of hospitals and flats, and then you get the hospitality. The Hinks Gallery starts onto the left of Old Shrek, and there used to be a dock for it. It came down here in the late 50s, there'd been the ray of the ship. They effectively came up to where the road was, in the village. Arms pub on my right hand side, over 300 years old now. Now London, as I say, has to change. Lincoln saying we won't get that anymore, but once you get a partial test of postalism, we recycle sometimes. So this is the old fire station on my left, it's now a restaurant, as you can see. You can sort of still see the gates to the door. The new building on your left, or newish, is the Unicorn for child audiences 2 to 29 for the millennium. No one paid any attention to it, of course, I'm the politician. I have to look after 32 boroughs, 9 million people, almost 10 million. It's a big con. It's the current mayor of London. He's got extra year in office because the election was postponed. Well, council this year postponed to the next year. Now, unfortunately, this new hotel on the left is blocking a view of Tower Bridge. And though it's a fantastic hotel now, it sits on the site of a school that used to be here up until the 17th century. And it's meant to be where the chap who founded Harvard University, Thomas Hartford, or at least in arcades only action, so you know what these multi-million-pound homes that have replaced old doctors. Now, very shortly, Tower Bridge, the Tower Bridge opened in 1894. It was unfurled or sort of opened as such by a fellow called Prince Edward, or Bertie as everyone knew him. No Bertie liked a good time, and as far as his mother Queen Victoria is concerned, too much of a good time. He had time to come and open this. What he opened was a technological marvel. The Victorians were all about innovation and colossal things, right? And they closed them, and for some reason they stayed closed until the early 1980s. The bridge, especially at this time of night, has a fine ray of seeing how the city is sprawled away from us. And as you can see, it's coming to the red, white and blue, which was done for the Queen's 25th year on the throne in 1977. That's so beautiful. The Queen is now 67 and a bit years on the throne. She'll reach 70 in 2022, her platinum jubilee, and after that, well, they're not going to make names up for it. Being the longest serving monarch in our country's history, it would be a nice touch if they repainted the bridge. And I say that because in 1977, that was the only time this bridge got a fresh look of paint in the near 80 years that it had been open until then. And it had not been repainted, other than to freshen the livery up, since 77. Now as it gets darker, especially at Christmas when they change the colours on them, the skyscrapers get lit up dark and nicely. The shard usually has a coloured tip to it, red before locking. And then right away to your right, you've got the Canary Wharf development, the old dry docks, of the Isle of Dogs. And the pyramid tip is the Canary Wharf Tower itself. That was the tallest building in London until the Shard opened. and they're not usually open to gentle colour, but sea workers aren't going out there either, so they only turn the lights on. As I say, even though the Canary Wharf is 3 miles east and the BT Tower 4 miles west, London is carrying on for miles around. Choose a point, zoom out from on Google Maps or any other site, and London just spreads like a great stain upon the landscape, as Winston Churchill once referred to. Appropriately enough, the Thames has been described by that man as a silver thread through London's history, and 1,000 years of that history almost is wrapped up in the tower raised around. The tower is in the centre of our breadth of claims upon its 4 towers. That was started in 1070 by William the Conqueror. By the 15th century, icons kept destroying it every year until William the Conqueror turned up anyway. And so the castle was there to defend and then also keep the population in check. Until the Conqueror, as I say, the fightings were coming up river every century, if not every year, to saw it burn London hard, getting ready to meet their maker. A couple hundred people filed into the seating area. They're all done, carrying on. The seating area collapsed. A few people actually got up. One of the lords started laughing. He was still laughing as the axe came down. It's meant to be really expression laughing your head off. Really weird nation, British sometimes, but there you go. Things have to start somewhere, and this chap quite shouldn't help his head off. Get away from the last lap 5 bridge, and then we're out. We'll hopefully be able to keep lap 5 South Now in the late 19th century, or at least in the 1840s, the River Thames was in a shocking state of water. A chap called Joseph Bassett was harsh as sort out, so he pushed the river, so I say, it was the first ever series in 2,000 years ago. Now up in ice roads in 2,000 years. According to its promenade, under the metal gas lights, it's also got the London Underground. On a fine evening, even in the light of what's going down, South Bank Centre starts to light up, with certain restaurants and you also see the River Thames, which gave London its life, and the Romans landed from it in 43 AD. Without the Thames, no London. Though the watermen are gone, there might well be families working on the river in some shape, descending from those who have London to the end. We see a great assortment where the river is still really giving London, apart from your tour boats, restaurant and pub vessels, commuter vessels and I see Thames tippers which you get from central London to Greenwich inside of half an hour in the tide and they go like the capital. As you can see, the tide is low and it's still very much tidal in central London, despite its appearance, it is said last year to have been the cleanest, well it is the cleanest in the better part of 5 centuries, the most biologically diverse. 50 years or something like 1,000 species of fish in London. But bearing in mind the Thames carries on behind us, they study it why it is that beautiful. As you can certainly smell and see, things are lighting up for the evening, and the bridge is now your best way of getting over to the South Bank. And we're going to go over at some point, but that'll be quite light. Indeed, where the Wharf Festival Hall is, it's still got a great sense of place. The Festival Hall is said to be Thames Marshall's favourite venue, and it's going to have the best reviews for this quite much next event. Next starts now. The wharf crates were built in 2002 by the builders, but the previous builders were the 50th year road, as I said a little earlier, 67 and 50 years into it, going now. Otherwise, the train station is found quite close out to the suburbs and of course all the way down to Kent. So, there's the only down to the left. The last one gets to where the when the eye opens, there's a moving wheel. And we're not expecting to last 20 years. 5 years is probably its life. Now it's still here, brand new. 52 then. Yeah, that's how we castle. This is quiet for a lights off, you get the old Air Ministry of Rating lights, now the Ministry of Defence. Technically James Bond's job type back in the day. And then down onto the right still, the Falcon Scientists have gone to the fourth headquarters of Scotland Yard since 1829. So that's the current HQ. The second one is up to your right here. And the sign is only meant to stop the Falcon. So that's your stop for Westminster Pier, and the Abbey, that's your stop for Westminster. Coming downstairs, please. Parliament technically is the Palace of Westminster, because there was a palace here that monarchs liked to stay in from time to time. We didn't have the likes of Buckingham Palace until only a couple of hundred years ago. And indeed, the last monarch to probably stay here was the likes of James I, because he was almost killed here with Parliament in 1605. Hence the 5th of November and all the rest of it. And not, in those days, Parliament was a much smaller building. It was still medieval in origin. It shared the same cellar as the pub next door. And Guy Fawkes, who was essentially the trigger man because of a much larger conspiracy, was able somehow rather discreetly to move barrels of gunpowder in. And in those days, you know, there were merchantmen that were able to store stuff. And at the very moment they say he struck the match. Westminster Hall on your left was built in 1097 by King William Rufus, and that's where we put Charles I on trial after our 3 civil wars. So as you see, Parliament Square is always quite hectic as far as the road goes, but this is the best place to protest because you can get right up close to Parliament, and I imagine being a weekend something will be going on here. The spiritual and political home of Parliament Square, and indeed the country, essentially is on either side. The smaller white building next to it is a separate church. St Margaret's with the blue door has been around as long as the Abbey, and it's the official church of the Houses of Parliament. Winston Churchill married her in 1908 purely on the basis that he was a member of Parliament. The church behind opened in 960 AD, and all coronations have taken place there since 1066, and William the Conqueror. So your defenders of democracy, or champions of democracy statues start off to your right. Some of them, of course, are much more modern. Nelson Mandela opened his own statue, the only person to do so. The statue was closer to the ground because Nelson Mandela wanted to be accessible to the people. And he got to the railings, and they would have known Winston Churchill's wife, because Clementine, even after she married Winston Churchill, remained a suffragette until women got the vote. Otherwise, the statues are largely Victorian leaders, the likes of Disraeli, Gladstone, Palmerston, Jan Smuts, Lloyd George, from around the First World War as Prime Minister anyway, and then Churchill, of course. By the time he died at age 90, he had been a Member of Parliament virtually half his life, more than half it anyway. He became a Member of Parliament towards the turn of the last century, and he stayed a Member of Parliament almost to a year before he died, but he very rarely attended. He referred to Parliament as the theatre of democracy, and it certainly is that, as it has been for centuries. And now that the weekend has loomed upon us, Parliament won't be in session. It takes something particularly important. The last occasion, curiously enough, was the Brexit debate before Christmas, and that was when there was a protest that shut this place down solid. Otherwise, it's only opened on a Saturday something like 5 times in the past century and a half. Parliament, or at least the House of Commons, still has the Strangers Gallery, which is where members of the public can come in and have a look at what's going on. Prime Minister's Questions tends to be, as it has done for years now, the most popular of it, because that's when most of Parliament is in, and of course the likes of the Prime Minister and Cabinet. So much goes on here on a daily basis, Monday to Friday, that it's just not reported on, at least not by the news anyway. Every word and syllable that's happened here is recorded by someone called Hansard, and that's been going on for centuries. If you cough or sneeze or some such, that gets recorded. Essentially any noise in Parliament gets noted down by the journal takers. Wow. With film crews in mind, so some of it's on the set, of course. So we'll try our level best to clear Parliament Square shortly, because everyone's trying to get out of it. The heart of the British government is in and around us, down Whitehall to your left, up the streets are to our right. And once we get over Westminster Bridge, Your next stop will be on the end of it.
Where we get up there. It's been a good talk.
Tom and I, wherever the weather really is always quite popular because sometimes.
Right, guys, this is the end of the tour now of all 3 attractions of Shrek, Sea Life, and the Big Bus Tour. I've enjoyed my London day out, and this is where the vlog will wrap up. I hope you enjoyed my tour of all 3 attractions. It's unfortunate I couldn't film Shrek. It's just one of them things. It's one of them attractions that you're not really allowed to film inside, which is unfortunate, but yeah. I did most of the filming of Sea Life though, and I've done most of the bus tour. Thanks for watching another venture, guys. Take care, all the best. Don't forget to subscribe.